And we are live.
Because it's not super obvious, isn't it?
We want to jing it.
Of course we do. We do. Well, how are you today, Christina? It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too, and welcome to this month live and our last live for this year. I'm so
Right.
excited that we are doing it, and I love the topic, and I'm ready. How about you?
Are you sure? Yeah. No, I'm excited. I'm excited too. I think it's a
Mm,
great way to wrap up the year. And,
mm,
as we were discussing what we can talk about and
yeah.
what we can have people join us with their questions. And I think this came up as a natural kind of ending the year thing. So
Yes.
we didn't have too many doubts about what to talk about and where to go next.
Exactly, exactly. But I will give you the stage to introduce yourself, who you are, what are you doing. We are be doing this live. This is our seventh one, but I think yeah, we'll give you the
Yeah.
stage to introduce yourself.
No, I think it's always good to share just a little bit because there may always be
Mm,
people who are not familiar. So
yes,
setting the
yes.
stage with the right tone. Okay, well, so hello everyone. My name is Snezana. I am an executive coach and a leadership trainer. I work with
Mm,
business leaders, business owners, higher management on helping them improve their leadership skills, grow and scale their businesses by focusing on growth mindset. And that involves a lot of things, but primarily the main focus is on setting and achieving goals, making sure you stay accountable, and making sure you're productive the right way or the
mm,
way that works best for you. I work with individuals, groups, and teams on helping them develop their leadership skills. In addition to that, I have a tiny podcast that I'm slowly developing that's called Growth Talks Podcast. And then I do some occasional speaking here and there. So that's about me in a nutshell. Christina, I'll give you the floor to introduce yourself.
so proud of you. And I wanted to share also that you are building a new course program about for leaders. So
Right.
who's, who's ever interested, reach out to her. She's amazing on what she's doing. And yeah, yeah. So I
Thank
would
you
just
so
wanted
much.
to,
Thank you.
to
I really
embrace that.
appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, it's a leadership, the Confident Leader program. So if you're interested,
Mm,
let me know.
okay. And as for me, I'm a life and business coach, also an author of the book Design Your Wins Every Day. I work with entrepreneurs in order to find clarity, align their business with their values, and being less overwhelmed. And together with Snezana, we are building a new course that will be launched soon. Stay tuned.
Yes.
And also in January, shall I share it now? I will share it. A new
Sure.
a new group business coaching that we will start together on January, and I'm super excited. And we are also accountability partners for 2 years, and yeah, so super excited with everything that we are currently building. And yeah, we both love what we are doing, and we want to kind of maximize the ways we can support people. And yeah, that's us, and that's me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I think one thing I learned from you is the importance of small wins. Not that I didn't know them, but seeing
Mm.
how passionate you are about it, it was great to bring it into my life on a higher scale. Let's just put it that way.
Yes. Yes, because and especially connected to our topic today, we have so many wins daily, and we just focus on 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 the big goal and the end goal. And sometimes I also want to embrace the fact that there are times that we are achieving the goal, but from a different perspective, and we are not acknowledging it because the focus is so specific and narrowed, let's say, into one way only, that we have not the open eyes to acknowledge that we actually want that goal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. And yeah, it kind of ties nicely into our topic for today, as you said. Just to
Mm,
remind everybody, today we're talking about a year-end reflection. So, what it
mm,
is that you can do to wrap up the year the best way possible. And by that, I don't mean like closing all of your projects, making sure you get everything done, but more like kind of looking back and seeing what you've achieved so far, what you haven't
Yes.
achieved, and maybe understanding why, if it's possible to get there,
Mm,
and what you've learned along the way. I think it's really important for us to be able to reflect on the year, to be able to move forward. And why we chose to do year-end reflection is something that's, maybe somebody's going to ask, well, shouldn't you reflect all the time? Yes, but I think it's a little bit different. And Christina and you and I talked about this offline at some point, but I think year-end reflection is it's different because it's bigger, so
mm,
you have maybe daily or weekly reflections or monthly even where you look at, well, what's been achieved, how did
yes.
I do, where I am right now. But year-end reflection is kind of like putting all of these together and
Eh,
thinking about what you've achieved, where you didn't. Maybe you procrastinated on something the whole year. Knowing that is important because then it begs the question, what is it important to you at all? If you've been procrastinating for a year, and if it still is, then noticing that you haven't done anything on an important aspect of your life is important because it tells you something. It's up to all of us to each one of us to understand why. But,
Exactly.
so I just wanted to kind of point out why we chose year and reflection as something like a special topic, right?
Yeah, and even if you haven't reflect for the whole year, today is the time to reflect to it. I mean, if you are not a person that you reflect frequently over something, it's really important to reflect because I see that all the time, especially working with entrepreneurs. Sometimes we get so overwhelmed going to the
Mhm.
next task and kind of doing. But then we realize that we do random tasks
Yeah,
altogether. But when we, and this is something we will be sharing in our course, when you find your values, when you have clarity, like everything is so aligned. So it's really important to reflect and align your business with your values and also understand what actually has been working and what is not in order to kind of reframe and take all these lessons and make them your biggest business assets. This is kind of my takeaway on it.
yeah, no, it sounds great, absolutely. And I agree. I don't think we need to reflect all that
Mm,
frequently, but it's important to have this, so to speak, stop point
mm,
and then see where you can go from there.
yeah. Honestly, for me, I usually kind of do a reflection session with myself on Fridays, and that helps me, but it doesn't mean that helps everyone. And
Yeah.
for some, doesn't work that way, and it's completely okay. That's why some things work for for some of us, and some things don't. And that's why it's so great that we are living into this age that we have multiple options to kind of grow, to reflect, to do everything.
Yeah, agreed, agreed. So I wanted to share very briefly, and Christina, you may have a different way of doing
Yes.
it, so feel free to chip in. But I wanted to share briefly what it looks like to be reflecting, because
Hmm.
I don't want to leave people thinking, well, so what do? You just sit down and think back. No, I think it's a little bit more structured approach that you should take. And what I would
Yes.
suggest is taking a piece of paper, I would say a
Mm.
physical thing rather than typing. And I know some people prefer typing. So if you can't do a pen and paper, fine, you can type. But make sure to have a tool that you can write things down. And so the first question you want to ask is, what are my wins from this year? And you can
Mm.
go as big or as small, it doesn't really matter. There's no limit to it. You
Mm.
can write gazillion small things, you can write three big things. I do think if you tend to focus on bigger achievements, I would encourage you to think of the small ones as well, because you may have a couple big achievements, and by big, I mean
Yes.
um, I don't know, maybe you grew your company a certain way, or maybe you established your business, or I don't know, maybe you got a kid, you got married. So these are like big achievements. But then there's so many small ones that come along the way that you don't want to be. forgetful of. So you still want to
Mm,
remember those. So that's the first step. The first step is remembering, recognizing, and acknowledging your wins. Again, no matter how big or small. The next step is what goals have I achieved? Right? So looking back at your
mm,
goals, hopefully you did set the goals for the year. And so you'd be looking back and seeing, okay, so what goals have I achieved? And then again, going through there. Um, if you haven't achieved some, which ones haven't I achieved? Which ones are maybe in progress still? So just getting clarity on where you are in relation to your goals, which ones
mm,
you have achieved, which ones are in progress, and you may be happy with that progress, and that's totally fine. And then again, which ones you haven't maybe achieved and why. And then
mm.
also learning or writing down what are my failures, not in the like a wrong way, but what have I failed at and what have I learned from there? Because that's the important aspect. Looking at our mistakes, failures, we don't look at them to feel bad or to start nagging ourselves or to criticize ourselves for not doing everything we said we were going to do. No, we're looking at them to learn a lesson. So, okay, I
Mm,
failed at this. What does that mean for me? What is that telling me? Or how has that failure helped me develop in a different way? Because sometimes that happens, you're trying something out. Uh, I don't know, maybe you're trying something with your team or your business, doesn't matter, and it doesn't work. It You definitely did something about it. So maybe you pivoted, maybe you tried it differently, maybe you tried it again the same way and then learned something from it. But there's some lesson learned and there's some impact of what happened from that failure or mistake. So I think in a nutshell, that would be my process. So really looking
yeah.
at what's good, what you have achieved, what you haven't achieved, where you
Mm,
failed, and then understanding why. And from there, you can say, okay, so now what do I do next year? But that would be the
yes.
reflection process. Anything that you would like to add, Christina? Maybe yours looks a little bit differently.
We have lots of similarities. It's the one that I'm doing in my 3 months business action plan workshop that we start from the review. You joined that one, so and the first, and I, as you were talking, I added the questions in the comments for
Uh-huh.
everyone if they
Nice.
wanted to do that later on. So the first question is, what were your top three achievements from it, because we are this year, like this year or last year, if you want to kind of do it on January. And also, what are the three biggest challenges you overcome last year and again
That's a good
this
one.
year? The third one is, what did you create or bring to the world this year or last year again? And in what ways your business grow? And then the fifth one will be, in what ways did you grow? Because sometimes it's really important to separate us from the business, the
True.
personal development and the professional development. I always say that most of the times business development comes from our personal development, but it's really important to also understand that the vice versa is really dynamic, and
Yeah.
everything we acknowledge is giving us like extra miles for the next year. And the sixth one, of course, my favorite is, what and how will you celebrate all these wins? So it's giving you the review and also kind of the gratitude for the next year. So this is my kind of takeaway on this.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love what you said about business growth coming from personal growth, but also
Mm,
vice versa. I do think that's really important because sometimes, we're trying new things and for our
yes.
business, and we tend to learn a lot from that, from those successes or failures, anyway, from that experiment. And then that changes us as people as well.
Mm,
Nice.
yes. And I see, honestly, I see the biggest growth in my business is when I grow personally and I do the big changes in my life, the big development journeys, and that I invest and more in myself. I'm more ready to kind of dive and kind of put up my sleeves and jump into
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
and also gives you so much clarity. when it's personally, I'm someone that I have billion ideas, and you need to be crystal clear with your values and what is aligned and what is not, in order to not get overwhelmed and know
Mm,
what it's now and what it's for, might be few days later. Like, as example, we are now building this course together, and then we've got to have the the group coaching, the business group coaching. So knowing what is priority, so we focus now on the course and then start building this new
right.
business group coaching together. So not everything all together, because you don't give the right attention to each of one, and you kind of like overwhelm also, and people also are confused because you are talking for multiple things at the same time, and everything. So I think everything needs to be 1 2 3. Yes, there are a lot of things in business that are multiple things at the same time, but having the clarity what is your main focus on a certain period, I think, is really important.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. And I do think reflection comes in for that, you being able to
Yes.
tell what your main focus is, or
Yes.
even pivot or shift focus. You need to be able to sit and look, you guys, reflecting doesn't really mean there's no magic to it, right? You just sit down and
Mm,
you think through and you look at where you are right now, what's going
yes.
where you want to be, and are those two aligned? Are you in the right on the right
Yeah.
path, going in the right direction. So there's really, it's just, you need time. You need, like, year end reflection. This can easily take your whole day because you're looking back a year and doing it for your business, doing it for
Yes.
yourself. So give yourself time to do this. It's not something we can do brief reflections. Like, for example, as a coach, we're always encouraged to do reflection on our sessions. Like, is there something better that we could have done? Could have done something differently? And those reflections, they can happen in short amount of time, like right after session for a couple of minutes, you're processing or so it doesn't have to be, but these kinds of reflections where you're doing year end, doing goal
Mm,
planning and goal setting, um, give yourself time for it. Sometimes you may take a couple of days, not all days, but like today, you're reflecting, and then you need a little bit of time to process that information. And tomorrow, you're going to sit down and work on your goals. So that's also acceptable. There's no strict rule in how you should go about it. The important thing is that you're learning something from it or confirming.
yes. And also saving time. This for me is really, really, really important, because you think you're gonna be wasting time on taking the time to reflect, but actually, and in the reality, you will save time. You
Yeah.
will save time because you will have more clarity on what is working and what is not.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, you're not invested time and energy wise in things that don't
Mm,
make sense. Or you're less
mm,
likely to get invested if you do regular reflection. Yeah, I love that.
yes.
I think theory wise, this is all I wanted to share. Like it shouldn't be, it's not a big deal, but you do need to set some time for yourself. Ask yourself a couple of questions so that there's process, there's structure to it, and know what you can expect at the very end. And then we also mentioned,
Yes.
strategies um,
Yes.
for starting 2025 successfully or gaining momentum. It pretty much stems from your reflection because your reflection is going to tell you, oh, this is where you've been successful. Maybe you can keep this up.
Mm,
Or you haven't done anything about this aspect. Is this still important for you? If so, how are you going to make sure you do get it done next year? Or how are you going to make sure you start with it next year? Um,
mm,
Based on what you've achieved so far and what you haven't achieved so far, what are your goals going to be for 2025 and so on. So that strategy heavily comes from the reflection that you're going to do for the year end, be it like Christina said,
yes.
whether you're doing it in December or January, it doesn't really matter, but it's kind of connected. You have to reflect, you have to look back to be able to move forward. That's the point.
Yeah, and also like in the, let's say, debate of it's now or it's in January, if you are so overwhelmed now and you will not dedicate the right time to do it on January. But if January you are start with no clarity, it's not efficient. So kind of find the most right the most
Yeah,
proper like timing for you because uh, uh, you know I said it earlier, it's so many ways that you can find the growth you need, but you need to have the clarity to acknowledge what is for you and what is not.
right. Agreed. Agreed. There's no hard rule when you should be reflecting and setting goals. End of
Mm,
year, beginning of year is a natural flow. And that's why we
yeah.
talk about things today, and
Mm,
that's why we usually talk about goals in January. But it doesn't have to be, you can think about your goals every day, all day. I mean, nobody says you have to do it this or that way, but I agree. You shouldn't be doing it when you're overwhelmed. You shouldn't be doing it when you're tired, because then what your body really needs is rest.
yes. And also a key note here, if you're overwhelmed now and you're overwhelmed on January, then then you need to change something. I mean,
Yes, then
you cannot be always, I'm sorry, overwhelmed. Like I think one of the key, let's say, things I want to say in this life, we cannot live on the hustle, culture anymore. There are so many, ways to thrive without all the time struggling and hustling and being overwhelmed. Like being efficient and having a more balanced way is more enjoyable. And when you enjoy more, you grow more.
yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not the one to do the hustle culture in general, so I would
Mm,
agree. I know there are people who really enjoy it, and I mean, good for you. I do think we need to be mindful of our energy and our
yeah.
time. So, if you're running on low fuel, Christina, you like metaphors. So, if let's say you're a
Yeah.
car running on, last bits of your tank, then you're gonna run out of gas sooner or later, and then your car is just gonna stop. That's kind of like how we are
Mm,
as humans. If we don't take time to recharge and refuel, eventually we'll stop, like kind of like when the holiday time comes and we get sick
yes.
because we stopped, and then all of a sudden our body was like, "Whew, okay,
How's the
now
time?
I don't have to put up my fences. I don't have to pretend to be, you know, fighting
Mm,
every single
yes.
bit in peace." And so your body relaxes, and then you get sick, because we need, if you don't want
Mm,
to take time for yourself, your body's going to make you take that time.
mm.
So I would rather,
You,
personally, I'd rather take it on my own than have to take it because I'm not feeling well.
yes, yes, exactly. So we discussed a lot about the review, the wins and the lessons, and generally for reflecting for this year. So while we move forward, how, how we move forward, I want to say.
You mean for strategies for 2025? Well, like I said,
Yes.
for me, the first step is, once you reflect, you're going to learn a lot from there.
Mm,
And so the
yes.
first step there is going to be, okay, the things that I've completed, is there anything afterwards? Like, are there any particular next
Mm,
steps I need to do after this goal that I've achieved? And if so,
mm,
what are these steps? So those would be, naturally the next step is planning out a year. Not planning in detail, but setting goals, thinking about what would be valuable for me and meaningful for
mm,
me, my business, myself as a person, as a professional, to achieve in the next year. So, what are some of the things I'm going to
mm,
strive towards? And, if you have like a bigger overarching goal, so let's say you have a 5-year goal or something like that, then it's going to be a chunk of that goal that you want to achieve
mm,
in this next year. It may not be the whole thing, but it's still going to be a, a fair
mm,
a fair big milestone. So the next step, like I said, is from your reflection, take the learning points, and then think about what am I passionate about this year? What are the meaningful things that I want to do in
mm,
2025, and why? Why does that matter to me? I think, going back to your why is super important. And then it's all about setting goals that matter to you. Some goals maybe you have to achieve. I don't know. That's absolutely okay, but you have to be clear on, I'm doing this
yeah.
because I don't know, it's a prerequisite for something else, or I'm doing this
Mm,
because it is required for XYZ. Doesn't matter, but you want to be intentional about it. And then, of course, try to
Mm,
set some goals that excite you, that bring you joy, because otherwise you're investing so much of your time and energy going for something that you don't even know why you're doing it.
mm.
That's what I would say.
Great
Where I
point.
mean, not that it's easy to set goals, like I know that one takes time on its own, but those would be for me in most general terms. That's
Mm,
that's what's next. What about you,
yes.
Christina? What are you thinking?
I was when I'm doing my goal setting, let's say workshop, we focus on the 1 year. What is the big goal for you? And then choose that goal, that big, let's say, mission, and break it to three smaller goals in order to kind of focus on it. So kind of have three goals you're working on currently, and meaning like what are the three things that you're going to focus for this quarter, for the new year's quarter? In order to, this helps me to find more clarity and being more efficient because sometimes we get so overwhelmed with our big goals and we forget to kind of break it down and take it piece and piece to kind of smaller piece. And then I share that metaphor again. It's like you're trying to kind of eat the whole cake with one bite. And there you gotta grab a spoon and, you know, eat that cake bite by bite. Either you're gonna slice it, but you still need to decide how are you gonna eat that cake. It's exactly like that, how what is happening with our goals and our action plans. You have this cake, you have your goal, and you break it down the way you want to eat it. You either gonna slice it at the beginning and then go, with your spoon or things like that. But it's again, you need that clarity in order to start eating your
Yeah,
cake,
yeah,
start
yeah,
working on your goal. And then I was gonna suggest like to be clear. Like, what are your finances called? What are you want to bring to this world? What, let's say, even for your business, like marketing strategies do you have? What new you want to like? Is it a program? Is it something else? Do you want to bring more team members? Like even that, like what do you want? What is your goal? And how are you want to achieve this goal? Like what needs to be done? What resources you need to leverage in order to achieve that goal? And also another kind of suggestion here, think differently. Like think as you haven't thought before. Yes, acknowledge your strong points and things like that. But sometimes we get trapped to a specific way. And when we just, think outside of the box, we leverage new ways in order to be successful, in order to achieve our goals, in order to thrive. And that's a really creative way to deal with your goals and your action plan.
for sure. Yeah, I completely agree. I do want to share that you can have more than one goal. And usually
Mm,
we set goals for a personal life or professional life.
mm,
You may want to have a goal for your health, for your mental well-being, whatever those are. It's okay to have, if you think of in terms of a vision board, you're not going to have one picture on it, right? You're
yeah,
going to
of
have
course.
a couple, if you think about all the areas in your life where they're meaningful for you or you want to make some progress, you can set goals for all of them. It doesn't mean that you're going to be going after those goals all at the same time, but you
Yes.
can, they go in parallel. So sometimes one thing is in focus, another
Mm,
time something else is in focus, and so on. But I agree, having that clarity on what is meaningful for me and why I want to achieve this particular thing. And then once I have it defined or as defined as I think it should be, then how do I go about it? Then you start thinking about breaking it down into smaller
mm,
steps, what those steps are, maybe roughly
yes.
thinking, if a particular goal is dependent on a season, clearly then that goal is going to be relevant in that particular season, or
Mm.
let's say you want to do more travel, maybe summer is the best way for you to travel, so then you're going to start working on that goal later in spring, maybe. It's not going to
Yes.
start in January. So having these things in mind, but really, I think setting time aside. One thing I've noticed is that if talking to my clients and just people in general, we don't set enough time aside to work on these. So
Mm.
it's like, all right, I need to have goals. Fine. I sit down, create my vision board, I define my goals. That's it, I'm done. But
But
are
do
you
we
really?
even, yes, I was gonna say that. Even I see it more like we create a vision board with what intention and with what focus and with what clarity. Like, are we just creating a vision board on Canva to just have a vision board? Like, is that the goal? Is that the need of a vision board? I mean, sometimes we need to be more intentional and have more values and more alignment into things. Um, that's my thought on it.
Oh no, I agree. I mean, even if you're thinking, health goals, so I want to be healthier.
Mm,
Okay, what does that mean for you? Because it means
yeah.
different things for different people. Do you want to be more physically active? Okay, in what sense? Do you want to join a gym, or is it more
Mm,
walking around, or a
mm,
mix of several things? Do you want to eat healthier food? What does that mean for you? If you're a person who already eats, I don't know, fruits, vegetables, meat, what does healthier eating mean for you? Maybe you don't want to
mm.
eat late at night or, something like that. So being,
Yes.
like you said, that intentionality, it doesn't only refer to why am I doing this vision board in the first place, but it also
Mm,
means why am I putting this particular thing there?
yeah.
If I want to
Yeah.
be fit, okay, what does fit mean for me? What does that look like?
Mm,
If I want to grow my business, okay, how? As in, not thinking of the steps, but like, what does growth mean for you? What would that look like if you,
yeah.
if this year you grew your business? Um,
Yes.
if you want to be a better person in some way, again, what does that look like?
Yeah, and I wanted to have a keynote here because earlier you said about one goal, and before that I said about three goals. What I meant is having the big goal and then kind of having the focus. Like, as example, I have the goal of starting my course, a pre-recorded course for I think 1.5 year, but maybe 2 years now. But it never became a priority because other things were more priority. So it's knowing things you want to be done and prioritizing them is what I meant earlier with, let's say, the kind of three goals. It's like choosing what is a priority, the one, two, three, like from the three goals, what I'm working now, what I'm working later, and more later on in the future, just to kind of, because we use different words and terms and might be confusion. That's why I wanted to clarify that. It's all about priorities. Is the big focus and then putting one, two, three.
Mm, yeah, yeah. So kind of like if you want to do business growth,
Mm.
it's a big goal and it can mean so many
Yeah,
different things. Um,
exactly.
but if you
Exactly.
define what growth looks like this year, then that would be
Yes.
your more focused area. So I think, Christina, what you're saying is you have a goal and then like sub goals, like mini goals that are going to lead towards that. Or if you do the version of end goal and means goals, so there's one end goal, but there's many means goals to get to the
Yes,
end
but
goal.
with basically also because you said one goal and I was saying three goals, and I thought it might be a lot of confusion if
Confusing.
no one is seeing.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. No,
oh,
I think you can never work on one thing for the entire year because we're not
yeah.
only business. We're not only a mom, a friend, a partner. So there's always multiple things happening. There's always only one in focus and full focus, but there's always multiple things happening. And we want to make sure that we're growing as a whole, a person,
Yes.
and that involves all aspects of our lives.
Yeah, and goals can be like personally. I want to kind of improve my well-being, with X, Y, and Z. I want to grow my business, and then like other. goals personally or other goals in the business, like hiring new team members. So it 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 varies. I wanted to say. um,
Yeah.
I also wanted to take the moment to kind of, because I know we also have the delay in the live, to ask if anyone that is watching us now have any comments or any questions. This is an interactive live. It's something we didn't say from the beginning, and I just wanted to emphasize that.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Please, if you have any questions, feel free to share it with us.
Mm. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think these are the most important things. As we said, to kind of give a summary, step one
Mm.
is reflection. And when we reflect,
Mm-hmm.
we try to answer questions like, what are my wins?
Mm.
What have I learned this year? What have you said, what new thing I have created this year? Or maybe what new thing have I
Mm.
tried? Um, and then, yeah, we said lessons learned. So doing that reflection, from that reflection or revision, some things are going to come up. Like, is there anything you want
Mm.
to continue doing next year? The goals that you have achieved, do they have a continuation, like phase two or something like that? Is that relevant for
Mm.
you this year? And it may
Yes.
not be, you may want to take a break from a particular goal and focus on something else, and that's totally fine. Um, and then once you decide what should be in focus next year, this is where you define your goals and then the action steps from it. And we said make sure that you break down your goals into smaller chunks to make sure that they're achievable, easier to track, easier to see progress, and being very intentional. I think that was one of the words we used a lot this time.
Yes.
So going in with an intention, understanding why you're doing what you're doing and what that means
Yes.
for you in any time. Yeah, I
Yes.
think
Beautiful. Beautiful. Do you have any questions that we need to answer?
I do. I did get a couple of questions. Maybe I can go with one and we'll see how we feel and if we want to wrap it up here. But there's one that I think was interesting. And here I'm looking at my other screen to read it. What advice would you give to leaders or entrepreneurs on setting realistic yet inspiring goals for the upcoming years
Mm.
or upcoming year, especially in times of uncertainty?
Mm.
I think that one was
Okay.
interesting.
Would you like to start? Because I see your excitement only by reading it.
No, I'm excited because of the realistic yet inspiring. I was talking my latest podcast is going to be about performance management, and one of the things we mentioned uh, is setting goals that are motivational, so a little bit more challenging. And then this one asks about setting realistic
Mm.
yet inspiring goals. I would say your goals should always be challenging, not impossible, but challenging. So let's say if you set a
Mm.
goal and you look at it and you say, okay, so how doable is this? You go, oh, very doable.
Mm.
That goal is
Mm.
easy for you.
Mm. For me, it's more like an alignment. Like when you set this goal, how excited you are, how how much you look forward to it and can't wait to get started and working on it. And gives you all that fuel to run and chase it and be jumping all around
Yeah.
about it. So for me, it's this one. But I do get also your challenging part that it needs to be like giving you the growth opportunity there.
Yeah,
What
like,
do
you're excited about your goal, you can't wait to get started, but then there's a little part of you that says, but how in the world am I going to make this happen? And I think
Yeah.
that's the part where you go, oh, I need to do X, Y, Z, or I need to research this. So
Mm,
so it gets your brain moving, but not in a scary way. So it's not like, oh my
yeah.
God, I have no idea how I'm gonna approach this. This is a disaster, because
Mm,
that's definitely not an inspiring goal. That is an alert goal, and you have to look back into it. But yes, I agree. Excited, but then also there should be this sensation of I don't know what I'm gonna do about it, but I'm gonna give it a try and see what I can
Yes.
do and how I can best go about it. So I think I agree absolutely. I think we should be excited about our goals in general, especially if we're the ones setting them.
Yeah, and that what gives me a great puzzle with something that I wanted to share, and I wrote it in a blog that I have in my website, how to set goals, is to make sure that your goal is your goal.
Mm,
Sounds very simple, but sometimes we get so confused with what others do, with like you know, what needs to be done in order to grow. It is really important to yet create and define our goals and what is important for us. Because
mm,
I said it earlier multiple times, there are so many ways to grow. There are so
mm.
many strategies out there. There's so many blueprints out there. There are so many action steps out there. But it's really important to find your way and your goal
Yeah.
and what is important for you. And especially between of us two, even us two, we kind of uh do completely different things, and like yet we have similar titles. We are both coaches, but
Yeah.
our approach, our style, our it's completely different, and it's really important to embrace that uniqueness
Yeah.
in our
Agreed.
goals and in our actions, and yeah, everything.
Agreed. Agreed. There's one more thing I wanted to address because it does ask about uncertain times or times of uncertainty.
Yes,
Um,
yes, you're right about that.
I think there it's really important to be flexible. So you
Yes.
still want to set your goals. You still want to make them, something that
Mm,
inspires you, that's exciting, that you want to achieve, that you're happy. You can see yourself achieving it and you just feel good about this goal. But you have to be ready to adjust if something happens. Because, we can't
mm,
control things. Even if the times are super certain. You can't
yeah.
really control things. So you do what you
Mm,
can, you go towards your goal, you do your action plan, you do the things you can do. And if something happens, you stop, you reflect, you see where you are. If you need to pivot, you pivot. If the goal is still important, it's still
mm,
important. You think how you want to change the direction, change the course. If you have to take a break, take a break. A lot of people I've seen, if something happens and they have to put the goal on hold for a little bit, they see it as a failure, or
mm,
they quit their own goal. Not necessarily. I mean, just because you put something on hold, it could be that it's not the right
yeah.
time for it, or maybe you're not the right person as you are right now to deal with it.
Yes.
So you don't you're taking a break. You're not quitting on your goal. You're going to go back to it and see if it still fits. Like that's where this alignment
Mm,
that you mentioned comes from. So if it still aligns with who you are a couple of months from today, great. You're going to continue working on it. But it's okay to take a break from a goal if you notice that you're not passionate about it anymore or it's not giving
yes.
you the value that it should be. That's totally fine. So as uncertain times, just a lot of flexibility.
Yeah. And I wanted to say that, especially because I shared it earlier, and two things that I want to share. First of all, couple of years ago, I was someone that I was getting really frustrated. It was something was kind of really throwing my goal out of the scenery, like, or things were uncertain and things were challenging the goal, and I needed to either reframe or changing things. I was really getting frustrated with that because I wanted to go with my flow and things my pace and achieve the things, and if there was something changing, I was getting frustrated with that, and then I realized that there is so many reasons that this is happening. Maybe it's not the right time, or things happen, and you just how you evolve and change things around it what makes the growth more impactful. And another thing that I shared earlier also again is that, especially with the course that we are gonna be launching soon, is I had it in my goals 1.5 year, and I started working on it, I think, last year, and I got three modules, and then there was one module that I got stuck on it, and I was working on it and became overwhelmed with it because I was having so many things to do with it. And I was kind of one day I realized it got me so much energy at a certain level that I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And I understand
Mm,
that this is not the timing, and that's completely okay.
yeah.
And when we were building our course now, I really enjoy it, and I'm so looking forward to it to be live and share all these amazing things that we have put together. And I'm just, you you if it's not working and you push and you push and you push and you push, it's not for now.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's completely okay to just pause it for a second or even a year in my case, and start again, um, in either in a different concept or when you were ready.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
now has more clarity, and I'm more ready and will be more powerful than pushing to publish it and do it when actually wasn't its time. So yeah,
Mm,
even that, acknowledging the right timing is really
mm,
important.
agreed. Agreed. Cool.
Mm.
Um, I don't know if do we have any questions from the current audience?
No, no, no,
All
no,
right.
this time.
Well, I think we can call it a day and let people do their own reflections and goal setting. And
Yes.
of course, if you need any help, we're here to help you guys. Let us know. We'll be happy to
Yeah.
talk to you about it. But otherwise, happy reflection and happy goal setting.
Yes. And you can reach out to us either in the comments or feel free to message me or message us. And yeah, happy to answer all your questions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Christina. It was lovely as always, and
Thank you so
I'm
much.
excited to wrap up the year in this way.
Yes, and so looking forward from everything that is coming and what let's say we are wrapping up this year, and it's gonna be amazing.
Absolutely. See you around.
Bye.